We had said earlier this week that the No Kings rally against Trump would turn to violence, that it was a formal, radical event across the United States, and it happened. Of course, I had no idea how this would happen, but it did. In this case, it was like assassination attempts on Democrat leaders. This is in flux. We don't know much about it. This whole story is going to change. I only know it's terrible. Welcome to Doug in Exile, and I'm here just to give you the news. I'm not trying to scare any. The last thing I want to do is scare you. I don't want to make you angry and radicalize you. I want to give you the facts just to announce what's going on. Here we go. Now, here's Trump's tweet. I have been briefed on the terrible shooting that took place in Minnesota. This is Tim Walz's Minnesota, which appears to be a targeted attack against state lawmakers. Our Attorney General, Pam Bondi, and the FBI are investigating the situation, and they will be prosecuting anyone involved to the fullest extent of the law. Such horrific violence will not be tolerated in the United States of America. God bless the great people of Minnesota, a truly great place. I like Trump's support of the states, and I like him appealing to God and blessing them. And we agree with that here in Exile. Now, here comes the stack of events. This is a reset as of 11:20 a.m. That's just over an hour ago. Minnesota Rep. Hortman and her husband have died in a shooting at their home. Senator Hoffman from Minnesota and his wife were also shot but survived. So you have 4 people shot, 1 couple were killed, and the other 2 survived. They went to the hospital and they were under surgery. Suspect is not in custody. State Patrol is asking people not to attend the No Kings events after flyers were found in the suspect's fake police squad car. Did you catch all that? This is a mess. It is politically motivated in some way, and we don't know. I don't want to make conclusions. In fact, by the time this thing posts, a lot more will come out, and I'll try and throw in some news events in here to get all caught up. A manifesto was found in the suspect's car with a list of lawmakers, unclear who was on it. They're asking people not to answer the door for police because this guy is dressed as a police unless there are 2 or more officers at the door. Suspect was dressed like a cop. Let's keep going. We're going to get Tim Walz's statement on this. There's a lot of calls for him to resign because remember, he was going to speak at this Minnesota event, and Rep. Anna Paulina Luna warned him, saying this is a communist Chinese funded event and you're the guest speaker at the No Kings. Tim Walz is all over tied to this thing in a very terrible way. I really, he's got to be terrified right now. Breaking: No Kings flyers found in the car of the Brooklyn Park gunman who shot and killed Democrat lawmakers in Minnesota. Calls to cancel the No Kings rally. Here's Tim Walz.
Hi, I'm Gio Benitez. We're following that breaking news out of Minnesota right now. 2 state lawmakers shot in what Governor Tim Walz says were targeted incidents. Walz is speaking right now. Let's listen in.
Park Police Chief Snyder and Brooklyn Park Police Chief Mark Bruley, as well as the mayor of Brooklyn Park. We're here today because an unspeakable tragedy has unfolded in Minnesota. My good friend and colleague, Speaker Melissa Hortman, and her husband Mark were shot and killed early this morning in what appears to be a politically motivated assassination. Our state lost a great leader, and I lost a dearest of friends. Speaker Hortman was someone who served the people of Minnesota with grace, compassion, humor, and a sense of service. She was a formidable public servant, a fixture and a giant in Minnesota. She woke up every day determined to make this state a better place. She is irreplaceable, and we've been missed by so many. Minnesota's thoughts and prayers are with her family, her loved ones, her children, and her parents. My prayers also go out to State Senator John Hoffman and his wife Yvette, who were each shot multiple times. The Hoffmans are out of surgery at this time and receiving care, and we are cautiously optimistic they will survive this assassination attempt. This was an act of targeted political violence. Peaceful discourse is the foundation of our democracy. We don't settle our differences with violence.
And that is our theme. We do not settle our differences with violence. That's the whole purpose of politics. That's why I love politics on this channel. It is an answer to violence. It is not the cause of violence. So we believe in political discourse.
Something must stop the cycle of reciprocal violence. Something must stop it, or it'll never stop. Just eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, limb for a limb, life for a life, forever and ever.
The problem is No Kings was set up to be a violent event. Now, I just wanted to show this Democrat lawmaker in Minnesota. This was Melissa Horton. She sounded absolutely terrified while speaking to the media after she voted no on health care for illegals. So these are Democrats, and she was terrified because when the state came to vote on if they were going to provide health care for illegals, she voted no. And now she's dead.
I know that people will be hurt by that vote, and we worked very hard to try to get a budget deal that wouldn't include that provision.
And they couldn't get it done. It had to be with that provision for the bill to go through. But I just wanted to put a face on this person as a public servant. The state police are saying do not attend the No Kings event, implying it is a very violent thing, and that they found No Kings flyers in the shooter's car. Now, I want to warn you on this because I'm very suspect of this kind of evidence being so obvious, but watch this.
We don't have any direct links. However, there were some flyers that said No Kings within the suspect vehicle. And as we know, the planned events throughout the state of Minnesota today is a No Kings event.
And so
now this is a photo on the left of the flyers in the back of the shooter's vehicles. I think this is pretty ridiculous and obvious. The shooter would have known those flyers were in there. And I just don't know if this is a false flag event. I don't want to get played by something so obvious as this. You know, this is shenanigans. I'm not saying the shooter's someone on the right, because I think I have a very hard time believing the right is that violent. I have an easy time believing the left is that violent. The other thing is most shooters, they're crazy. This is not an average Democrat. If it's a Democrat, this is a nut. Okay, if you're shooting people, you're crazy. So I don't want to jump to too much and find this all delicious for the Republican side when there's people dead. This is political violence. That's kind of where I draw the line. I'm going, this just smelled to me so bad that there was that kind of obvious statement on the No King stuff. This guy was a nut.
the reference materials that were inside of the vehicle that we saw, we have no understanding that any of the No Kings events would be targeted, but we also find it of interest to the public that these would be in there, and we want to alert everybody until we do that. Because this is such an active investigation with information not knowing right now, we feel it's an obligation to all of you and the public across the state of Minnesota to alert you of it, and that's why the Colonel made the notation of recommending people don't go today. But
the Colonel of the Minnesota state is recommending people do not attend the No Kings event because it's likely, it could be not likely, it could be violent. So it's a public safety thing. Don't go to No Kings events. These are violent, bizarre, anti-Trump, emotional events.
individuals are not in custody yet, and so we want to make sure as that very active manhunt is underway and continues, that we make sure that we're sharing that, and that's part of why we're making the recommendation. As to the investigation and the list, we are working through that now and talking to individuals, and we'll continue to. What I would say with the list is there's a large number of people. That's all I can say about it. We will work through all of that, what the motivations of this are, and we'll provide that as you can. This is really a public safety announcement for everybody so that we can make sure people.
So there was a hit list and a manifesto in the car. The hit list, he said, was a very long list of politicians. So we're going to get all kinds of more information on this stuff. They eventually will catch this guy or whatever. And I'll try and give you an update right before this uploads to make sure I have the current information. But this news is going to be flowing all day, all tomorrow, big investigation all the time. Here's Jack Posobiec. The No Kings assassin was appointed by Tim Walz. That's just It's true, and it smells like a rat. Here's Julio Rosas breaking. I'm told by police source in Minnesota the suspect in the shootings of Minnesota state lawmakers is Vance Luther, Boelter, I believe, Boatler. It appears it is the same Boatler who was appointed to the governor's Workforce Development Board in 2019 by Governor Tim Walz. He appointed to the governor's Workforce Development Council in 2016 by then government Mark Dayton. So this man who's 57 years old, that's just a year younger than me, is a longtime Democrat guy. Here's the state of Minnesota, Tim Walz governor, notice of appointment, Vance Boatler. Because of the special trust and confidence I have in your integrity, judgment, and ability, I have appointed and commissioned you to hold the office of business member governor's Workforce Development Board. Boy, what a terrible taste in character. And I just can't help but think of this quote by Tim Walz during the debate with J.D. Vance.
Senator, thank you. Governor, you previously opposed an assault weapons ban, but it's only later in your political career did you change your position. Why?
Yeah, I sat in that office with those Sandy Hook parents. I've become friends with school shooters. I've seen it.
I've become friends with school shooters. Yeah, you appoint them. Okay, let's move on to more news. This says, new police warn public safety from the No Kings Trump protest after shooting of Minnesota Democrats. That's a good warning. Never go near these Democrat events. Here's the Maine Minnesota State Patrol says the photos is of flyers inside the vehicle of the suspect in today's shootings. Like I said, these photographs smell to high heck to me. Given the targeted shootings of state lawmakers overnight, we're asking the public to not attend today's planned demonstrations across Minnesota out of abundance of caution, says the Minnesota State Patrol. And I would say that across the country. Do not attend these events. I believe this is dangerous. Joe Biden's the one that said the mega MAGA Republicans and the right-wing Republicans were the greatest existential threat, our white supremacy. No, there's a greater existential threat coming from the left. Always has been. Here's Gavin Newsom. This is appalling. Lawmakers are now being shot and assassinated, targeted for their political beliefs. That's right. In this case, by a Democrat. We pray for their families. Oh, look now. This is so weird because Tim Walz, Trump said pray. Tim Walz twice said he prays for the victims and their families. And here's Gavin Newsom saying we pray for the families. Remember, years ago, it was the Democrats and the leftists that said, don't pray, do something. Quit offering prayers and good thoughts. Quit offering prayers. Keep your prayers. The atheist would say, now everyone's praying to God. And I agree with that. Gavin Newsom, correct. Tim Walz, correct. Trump, correct. Us too. Pray for this country. We stand with prayer. I'm happy the Democrats have ditched that old do not pray stuff. Of course we appeal to God. Of course we do. Here's Phil Holloway. The photo of the flyers inside the vehicle. The suspect, he said, No Kings is about violent anarchy. So do not attend the events out of caution. Here's Harmeet Dillon. Hey, everyone. No King's Day is July 4th. Pass it on. Actually, it's not July 4th. For me, No King's Day was November 4th, 2024, when we elected Trump. Here's more from the New York Post. Democrats are forming an assassination culture as Trump rises in power, a new study reveals. Now, this is studies, experts, and science, which Democrats always quote. A disturbing new report reveals that violent political rhetoric online, including calls for murder of public figures like President Trump and Elon Musk, is being increasingly normalized, particularly on the left. The left, Biden is a bigger threat, not mega MAGA Republicans. You idiots, open your eyes. The report from Network Contagion Research Institute found that a growing number of people are willing to justify and even applaud killing in the name of politics and a warped sense of social justice. The chilling change appears to have accelerated in recent months. What was formerly taboo culturally has become acceptable, says Joel Finkelstein. And you guys know that on this channel, I cover our culture. I go, what is in the air with Democrats versus Republicans? This study is saying their rhetoric is getting more violent. And now you see with their actions, it's also getting more violent.
Found in his car was also a hit list with mayors, abortion providers, pro-choice advocates, and a number of 70 different targets, both in Minnesota and other states.
Still, it's not a formal political philosophy. It is still nuts. I always say, whether if it's a right-winger doing the shooting or a left-winger doing the shooting, these are mentally unstable people, okay? You're going to find out this guy was emotionally disturbed.
Showed you, this is a look at that home from earlier this afternoon as crews went there to try to find any pieces of evidence that might help them figure out where he might be going next, if that part of it was planned or not. And then also that North Minneapolis location where we showed you that surveillance photo from this morning, really letting us know that he could be anywhere. I mean, it's been several hours, so depending on where he was headed next, or we still don't know if he had anyone that might be able to assist him in his fleeing from the area.
Right. They asking people not to approach him if you see him, but directly call 911. We also have that tip line that we have been mentioning throughout the morning, BCA, asking for your help. If you see him, if you know anything about him. Another thing that was mentioned in the press conference, which we haven't touched on quite yet, there has been no update on Senator Hoffman or his wife. We know that they were shot in their home in Champlin about 2 o'clock this morning. The update that we did have was that he was out of surgery in stable condition, but as Drew Evans said, he did have significant injuries there. So again, no update on his condition except that he is out of surgery and in stable condition.
All kinds of stuff. These aren't normal people, okay? So I don't want to try and say that they're normal. Here's Brad Todd, cable news networks going live from lots of No Kings protests. Can you remind me if they did this in 2009 for the Tea Party protests? No, they did not. The left-wing media branded themselves with the worst brand, No Kings, which is a violent assassination brand. Remember, the violence tends to come from the left. Their sentiment is coming from the left. And so that's why we're calling them out. We believe, like Tim Walz said, I'll quote Tim Walz. He said, we don't approve violence. And basically, the way that you stop it is by endorsing and promoting absolute free speech. You have to be able to dissent verbally without making threats. Make your disagreement known, get heated. I don't care if you use humor to mock your opponents. I would not stop your free speech. So we have to embrace more free speech if you're ever going to avert violence. Otherwise, it will escalate. I'm Doug in Exile.